meeting back to order here. And the next part is we're going to have a presentation from WashDOT on the I-405 master plan. And we have, yes, please.
You just want us to get started?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Good evening. I'm Kim Henry. I'm the 405167 Program Administrator. And with me here is Ed Barry. He is the Director of WashDOT Toll Division. So we are approaching the end of our 2-year operations of tolling in the north end. And so Ed's got a lot of information he wants to share just about how that 2 years has been going so far. But I'm also going to spend just a few minutes running through the 405 program here and just give everybody a status update, what's happening. I like to start every presentation off just a reminder that we do have a master plan here in the corridor. It's a multi-modal, multi-agency plan, and this has been guiding the direction we've been going since 2002. We've been tracking progress against all the different agencies that have been working on this plan, and we've been making a lot of great progress. This here shows projects that are either completed and or funded. So with the dollars that came in from the legislature with Connecting Washington, we're able to really move forward with some additional capacity here in the corridor, which is badly needed. But we've also got Sound Transit working on bus rapid transit now as a result of the ST3 package. And so that's really a very, very important component of this corridor as well. One of the parts of the master plan talked about the benefits of express toll lanes. It was not fully adopted in the original part of the plan, but there was provisions to continue looking at it. The legislature asked us to put together some specific studies and then adopted the plan to move forward in 2011. And that plan was a result of the recommendation from our executive advisory group here in the corridor. And it's an express toll lane system that stretches from the King County, Pierce County line all the way up to I-5 at Linwood. And on 167, we have the hot lanes as they exist today. But then you see right in the middle of the map there, that orange section, that's the section from the 405 167 interchange all the way up to downtown Bellevue. That piece is not yet constructed. That's the piece that just got funded, and talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then the rest of it from downtown Bellevue on up to I-5 is the section that opened 2 years ago. And we have a 2-lane section then that stretches from downtown Bellevue all the way up to 522, and then a single-lane section very similar to what we have on Highway 167 from Highway 522 and to the north. I think everybody is familiar with why we need to continue to make improvements here. We have congestion in this corridor that this is the worst congested section of freeway we have in the state. But it's not just the congestion we have in the general purpose lanes. The HOV lanes are also extremely congested. The little bar chart on the right-hand side of the page shows how travel in the HOV lane has been changing over the last few years. The free flow trips takes about 16 minutes, but right now it's been averaging 27 or more minutes. Really over the last year, I think we're even quite a bit higher than that. And so we continue to see a lot of growth as people move into the area, and we continue to see job growth. That's going to continue on into the future, and so we do not have any kind of a reliable trip right now when we don't have reliable trip in either the HOV lane or any of the general purpose lanes.
Okay, so as Kim mentioned, I'm Ed Barry. I'm the Director of the Toll Division, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight. I appreciate you having us. And I'm going to run through just some basics of Bellevue to Linwood that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. As Kim mentioned, we have a dual-lane section and a single-lane section. The hours of operation are between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. every weekday. But in the middle of the weekday, we have a different HOV occupancy between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Goes from 3 plus to 2 plus. So that's an important distinction that I like to bring up and remind folks of, that I'm sure most are aware. And we also have exemptions out there for, of course, the transit and van pools and the qualifying carpoolers. So that's the basics of how it works. It's been open for almost 2 years. The 2-year anniversary is almost upon us, September 27th of this month. Okay. So some more general basics. Up there you see we have a sign of how it looks if you were to go northbound, and a toll that you might pay when you make a buy decision going northbound. So you have $2 to get to Kirkland, 124th, $2.50 to Bothell at 522, and then $2.75, for example, to get up to Linwood, and then you have the HOV occupancy requirement right there on the sign. So just as a reminder of how it works, in the back office, there is an algorithm that computes the tolls every 5 minutes based on the congestion in the express toll lanes. So it makes a calculation on what the toll might be for a certain amount of congestion, incentivizing or disincentivizing folks from getting in there and using it. It is a 75-cent minimum toll and a $10 maximum. So that's the way it works. And in our most recent reporting quarter for ending in June of this year, we saw an average toll during the peak periods of $2.96, but 2/3 of the tolls paid were under $4, and that graphic in the lower left shows that breakdown. So moving on from the general basics, I want to talk just quickly about performance. I'm going to talk about volumes, speeds, and revenue. The first one here is volumes. We're seeing up and down the corridor, we see screenshots of the increased volume that the express toll lanes have provided since it's open. In this particular reporting period, we see on the left side southbound, the right side northbound, the lighter shade being pre-toll, the darker shade being toll. You see just overall volumes being increased both in the general purpose and the express toll lane combined, because we have drivers that would normally have been in the general purpose lanes or the regular lanes making a buy decision and getting into the express toll lane. So we see anywhere from 4% up to 20% increase in volumes up and down the corridor getting through since we opened. And I also like to point out that as the tremendous population growth Kim had alluded to, since the express toll lanes open, we're still getting more volumes through than prior to that. Speed performance. This is for the section between Bellevue and Linwood, broken down between single lane and dual lane. Those percentages refer to the amount of time we have over 45 miles per hour operating in the express toll lane. So you can see we easily meet the 90% metric over in the dual lane section. In the northbound section, we've gotten great improvement on the performance in the express toll lane since the PQ shoulder opened in April. We had the PQ shoulder project open to help operation in that single lane section where we had struggle, and you can see it's really helped us. But the southbound single lane section, it continues to struggle because of the popularity of the express toll lane and the limited cross section for folks to be able to use that. So it does drag down the overall metric. But between April and August, you can see we're meeting 86% of the time over 45 miles per hour in the express toll lanes. And I also like to point out that prior to opening of the express toll lanes, the HOV lane was only meeting that standard 62% of the time. So it represents a pretty good jump in performance after the express toll lanes opened, providing that reliable trip. Next, revenue performance. Since the express toll lanes opened, $38.6 million of revenue has been brought in. 13.6 was to cover operational and maintenance, leaving $25 million to be reinvested in the corridor, $11.5 million of which was invested in that PQ shoulder project that I just mentioned. So one of the performance metrics that is in the legislation is that it should meet our operation and maintenance costs, and it clearly does that, and it leaves $25 million for reinvestment. So the 2-year anniversary is upon us, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the month. So that's why we're out talking to folks, talking about our performance, talking about where we're going. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of discussion after the 2-year anniversary and into the legislative session on the future of the project, but we're out there telling people that it's operating, it's meeting the goals that we set forth. We're operating it and seeking the performance that we can get out of it, and we're happy it's there to provide that option for drivers. One last slide for me is we took lots of surveys and polls prior to opening and post-opening, but some of our most recent polls in the late spring and early summer indicated that we asked a couple questions that were indicative in both of these polls, and that is, do you like having the option of using the express lanes for a faster trip? We had 60% saying yes, so that was a great thing for us to see. We're seeing acceptance rebound over time, which is similar to what other agencies have seen as their facilities mature and as people become more familiar with the facility, that acceptance rebounds and that people understand and like the option of having it there. So we were happy to see that based on some of our polling numbers.
So here in the south end of the corridor, we have much of the same problem with the HOV lane as we have in the north end of the corridor. So our performance continues to go downhill in the HOV lane, and I even got the opportunity to experience that tonight coming down here as we were stuck in traffic for a while, even as a carpool. So that's really something we're trying to address, is to get some better performance out there, and especially with Sound Transit putting BRT here on the corridor, we really need that high-capacity transit system to operate at high speed with a reliable trip time. So with the Renton to Bellevue project, we are adding capacity from the 405-167 interchange up into downtown Bellevue, and that is capacity in both directions, and we're connecting that up at the 405-167 interchange with the direct connector project that's under construction right now, so that we have a seamless system being able to travel from the hot lanes into the express toll lanes and vice versa. This next graphic shows where we are making the capacity improvements, and so the purple represents the express toll lanes section, and so we are going to be building that new lane, then combining it with the HOV lane to create that 2-lane system. But in addition to the express toll lanes, we also have some auxiliary lanes we're building in a few locations in the southbound direction from the I-90 interchange down through to 112th. That's a very notorious area for congestion. There's a lot of problems in the afternoon peak, and so getting that extra lane through there and that extra capacity is going to help smooth that area out. And then also from 44th to 30th, there's an auxiliary lane. And so there are cross sections alongside the map showing how many lanes are going to be in the different areas there. We do have some changes throughout the corridor in different places, but as you look at the cross section, you can see the areas where we have the green lane on the cross section showing the auxiliary lane, and then the purple lanes showing the express toll lanes, and then the lanes in between are the existing lanes that are out there today. I also want to talk just a little bit about what the difference is between the benefits with express toll lanes versus the do-nothing out there. And so we took a look at traffic conditions in 2025 and took a look at what was the differences between those. And so on the left-hand side, it shows where we are in the corridor. So down at the very bottom there, where the arrow is, we have I-5 at South Center, so that's the south end of the corridor. And then as we travel up the side over here, you see Highway 167, 169 up through to I-90, and then downtown Bellevue. And along the bottom of each one of these little graphs or charts shows the time of morning. So we're showing 5 to 10:30 a.m. on all of these. Along the bottom here is the legend for what this color coding means, and it's just like the traffic maps you often see, where we have green is free flow conditions, and then we have building traffic all the way up to the black, which is just stop and go parking lot like conditions. And so on this side, these two on the left-hand side, this is what it's going to look like on 405 in 2025 without any improvements. And if we just picked any time, say 8 o'clock here, and we were looking at the HOV lanes, as we start to travel from the very south end of the corridor, what we see as we go from south to north is that we're in very heavy traffic. This is that 20 to 35 mile an hour speeds. So the HOV lane is really a problem up until we get to about the 44th interchange. Once we get to 44th, that's where the bottleneck exists today. Then it's fairly free flow until you get into downtown Bellevue, and then we have more problems again. The general purpose lanes are much worse, of course, and so what we see is as we go from south to north is we see a lot of the black, which is the parking lot conditions where it's just stop and go, and is a real problem through the south end of the corridor. Once we get past 44th again, past that bottleneck area, things break free and we get free flow for a while, and then we hit downtown Bellevue and we see more problems. So then we took the same traffic model and with the new improvements that we have out there, and the first one over here on the right-hand side shows the express toll lanes, and that's really pretty much all free flow except for right in downtown Bellevue. You got people getting out of the express toll lanes, a little bit of congestion there as they try to merge into the regular freeway lanes and or exit that area. But then as you look at the general purpose lanes, it's really pretty much all of that south end stop and go parking lot has been cleared up, and that is pretty much gone. So we still have a couple of problem areas out there, and those are some things for future projects for us to continue to work on. If you took all, I'm going to go back for 1 second. If you took all this area that's in each one of these and you added up how much green, yellow, red, or black is on the chart, and you turned it into a percentage, we could put it into a pie chart. And so this is that same amount of information. It doesn't show you where in the corridor it's happening, but it just shows you how much congestion that you're seeing in the corridor. So on the left-hand side, we have the general purpose lanes without improvements, the HOV lanes without improvements, and then on the right-hand side, we have it with the improvements where we can see how that changed in the general purpose lanes, essentially removing all the black and reducing the red down to only 3%. So I think that's pretty significant. Our 405167 project, direct connector project, is part of this whole project. It's the first construction phase to get out there. And I'm sure everybody's been seeing the progress that's been happening. That project has been going exceptionally well over this last year, and in fact so well that we'll be meeting with our contractor later this fall to talk about how the schedule is being potentially advanced. And so we don't know how much or anything yet, but right now everything's tracking ahead of schedule, and so we're very, very pleased about that. And this is our overall schedule here within the corridor. The top line shows when we're going to be completing that interchange project, which originally was scheduled to be the middle of 2019. So as we work with our contractor, we'll find out how that's going to change. The next project down is the major widening work between Renton to Bellevue. That diamond right in the middle of 2019 shows when we're scheduled to go to construction. There's a diamond at the end of 2020, and that diamond represents the work we're doing for King County and the commitment we made to get the regional trail on the East Side Rail Corridor opened by the end of 2020. And then the whole project will be completed by 2024. There is a dashed line there that runs at up and down at the end of 2024. And that line is Sound Transit's scheduled opening of bus rapid transit here in the corridor. So that's a very important milestone for us as well. We're working closely with Sound Transit to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place by the time they're ready to operate bus rapid transit so that it's going to operate effectively. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Yes.
Well, you most likely been expecting this question about the timing for taking down the Renton Avenue Bridge, are you planning to do 2 bridges or just 1 bridge?
We actually need to make modifications to both bridges, and so we won't have a specific schedule until we get a contractor schedule, and so we will, though we're very much aware of the concerns and issues about how that's going to work, and so that's going to be an important piece for us. And in fact, I think we've got a meeting now scheduled to start talking about the timing of that and how it all needs to fit together.
Yeah, that'll be October 17th here in the council chambers with the Renton Hill community. Thank you.
Very good.
I had one question. In the survey, you mentioned that you also surveyed drivers who don't use the hot lanes at all. Is that they were included in that survey? I was wondering if the positive reaction was because with people moving into the toll lanes, I should say, they're seeing an increase in speeds in the general purpose lanes.
It could be, yes, and we've heard some of that too from some of the users that don't often use or don't use the express toll lanes, that they have noticed some improvement in the general purpose lanes because people have been opting to use the express toll lanes when they needed to.
That's what we're hoping for, to see faster moving general purpose lanes because the people are using the express tolls, right?
Yeah, if we go back to the heat maps, and what they were showing there is really, without adding capacity, we're pretty much clearing up all of the congestion problems, and that's because there are so many people that really want to use that express toll lane and get that high-speed trip, and so it's really going to make a pretty significant difference.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, thank you. Going back to that heat map specifically, that's for the northbound, and I can tell you right now, 2025 or maybe 2017, that is, I think, the experience a lot of people are seeing right now. I'd love to see, obviously, the side-by-side, but definitely a lot of stop and go right now, so looking to it improving that much would be fantastic. I'd be curious, do you have a similar heat map available for the southbound, the evening commute?
We do, and I just don't have it here in the presentation, but
I imagine it also improves.
yeah, it does. I think the numbers look very, very similar here to what we are seeing on these pie charts. Of course, the congestion's in slightly different locations, and so I just don't have that here in this presentation, but certainly can get that for you if you're interested.
Sure, I'd be happy to look at it later. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for being here. Have you received correspondence from citizens in Renton regarding the HOV lane, or to have questions about the improvements and times, or you don't know?
I don't know right off the top of my head. I can certainly find that out for you.
Thank you.
Well, mine's more comment than anything else. It would seem to me that with a flyover lane for the carpool or express lanes from 405 to 167, that should really help the congestion along what we call the S-curves that are not the S-curves anymore.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of a construction timing issue, and until we get the whole project built, there's going to be moving, the traffic in the northbound direction is still going to be much of what it is because we've still got all those bottlenecks But I think it's really going to help the southbound traffic as people are going to be able to just continue on without having to weave their way into the outside ramps there. So.
Yes, Ms. Swissy.
Yes, I noticed on the map that one of the areas that you're going to provide some alternative lanes is the, from the 90 south on the 405. And I was wondering what you were planning to do with that exit 10 Coal Creek area where you have the 2 lanes coming off from the 90, and then it becomes 2 lanes on the 405, and you've got 2 lanes exiting onto Coal Creek. And that has always just been a huge bottleneck, and it never made sense to me why we have 2 lanes of exit when people are trying to cram over to the left side. Are you going to widen that section?
We are widening through there. In fact, we're putting a new bridge over Coal Creek to carry the southbound main line. So there will be a lot of new capacity through there. And then with the extra lane that's going to go further south carrying that traffic is going to help smooth out that whole interchange. Ultimately, as part of the 405 master plan, there are more direct connectors similar to the ones that we have or are building right out here at 405 167 for the I-90 interchange. And so there will be that inside connection to and from Issaquah from here, and also from Issaquah to Bellevue and back, which will then add substantial additional capacity to that interchange and really smooth that weaving and congestion out that really bogs that whole area down.
Thank you. Needs it.
Anyone else?
Mr.
Okay.
President? Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Oh, wait. I was just going to ask, are there improvements planned for the 169, 405 interchange to help in any way? I think the big problem is capacity on 169, but as that backs up, we've got over 60% of commute traffic through Renton in the morning. They're just trying to bypass that, and so any improvements there would be a significant help to our surface streets.
We are working with your staff on identifying, taking care of the I think that it's part of the problem is right at the intersection and then the ramp metering setup. And so we've been working on a design to help relieve some of that problem that's going on there and make sure that we can get that traffic through the intersection and onto the ramp. And so I think you had originally had a project that was planned in that area, and then since we're going to be there and making the changes anyway, I think we're just incorporating all those same elements into our contract.
Thank you. Ruth, did you have another question?
I just wanted to thank you for the work that you have done to mitigate the impact of the I-405 and the 167 connector. I live right there, and I drive almost every day. And even though it's slow, it's moving, and thank you very much for your effort to help, the community to keep moving.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That's one of our number one goals is always to try and keep impacts down to a minimum for everybody in terms of both traffic, but also neighbors and construction activities. And so it's good to hear that we're doing okay out there.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. I know this is an issue that impacts a lot of people, and we appreciate it when you guys come and give us this update. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.